Hey, friends. So our Hotel 360 booking site has these loyalty-based discounts, and there's a bug where the discount is not being applied, and I'm not going to spend $300 a night to stay in New York. So I want to see how I can get my discount, right, because I'm feeling entitled. Now, my team uses Kubernetes to manage that environment, and I'm going to connect to our cluster up using the new tooling for the Azure Container Service. And this is going to enable me to go and run all that stuff in Kubernetes in Azure. I'm going to switch over to where I think the bug is, which is here in Visual Studio, and the discount controller that I'm working on. And up here where it says IIS Express, rather than clicking IIS Express, I'm going to click this connected environment for the Azure Kubernetes service. I'm going to pick then my personal space up there in the cloud. And I'll hit OK. And then in Visual Studio itself, I'm going to right-click and say Open Kubernetes Dashboard. Now, even though it says localhost up there, in fact, it's being proxied all the way through to Azure. Now, this is a really important thing to understand. If you look at that list on the left there, there is a list of the containers that are involved in this. The one that I'm worried about is discounts. But the app itself is made up of a large number of containers, and those containers are in different languages, written by different people in different locations. But this here isn't the complete holistic view of the app. There are other external dependencies. There's Azure Cosmos DB that you can't see. There might be Azure AD. There might be a Redis service. But what is exciting about this is that this isn't representative of production. This is my development cluster. But it looks like production. It smells like production. It has all of those different things that make it work and behave like production. Why is that significant? It's significant because how much time have I spent trying to get my local underpowered laptop to look and smell like production? I've mocked out services. I've struggled to get all of the different containers running at the same time. In an attempt to make some simulacrum of production, why don't I just use Azure to do that and then collaborate as a team? So that's the general idea. So with Visual Studio's connected tooling for Azure, it's going to make that inner loop easier. I want to be able to edit code, debug as fast as possible. So here in VS, I'm just going to put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to hit F5. Now, if you think about what's involved in building a container, pushing it to a container registry, bringing it back down, or maybe checking it into VSTS and then waiting for that build, I want an experience that feels like I'm on localhost, except I'm not. So I just hit F5, and all of that code just got built and deployed and pushed into Kubernetes in the cloud. And if you look at the URL here, I want to point out that that's not smarthotel360.com. That's the development cluster. Again, not production, smells and behaves like production, but not localhost. So I've hit that breakpoint, and I'm going to hit F10 and F10. And I'm going to call the profile service. I'm in the discounts service. It's going to then call the user profile and pass that ID in. And oops, it looks like I have an issue where I'm passing in a 0. I'm going to scroll up here. OK, so they called me with this ID, alf key. That's a string. This is an int. That's a problem. So I've made a mistake. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a string. I will hit F5 again. And now I've got that nice inner loop. I didn't check this into VSTS and wait for a build to see if it looked and smelled like production. Instead, I'm getting that feeling of confidence that my code is going to be OK because it's running in a production-like environment, except I just hit F5. So I'm getting confidence before I commit. So we'll go and check that out. And my code always runs exactly as it was written. I'm going to hit F10 and F10. We'll go and call profiles, and that's going to be amazing and work. Or not. 404. So that was a 404. That's bad. That means that there's a problem with the profiles service, which is written by a different person in a different location in a different language on a different platform. So I'm going to pretend to be that person. I'm going to switch over to a Mac, and I'll put on my beret or whatever Mac users wear. And so now I'm in Node on a Mac in VS Code in a different location. But I'm still talking to Kubernetes. If I go and run kube control, I can see the pods. I can see that stuff. I'm talking not again to local. I'm talking to the Kubernetes in the cloud. And I can see here my profiles route. You see, it's still thinking about things in terms of an int. I'll just go ahead and remove that. And then I'm going to hit F5. On Node, This was on .NET Core. Now I'm on Node. We're going to synchronize that all up into the cloud. There'll be just a moment. Now we're in debug. I'll come over here, note the URL. Let's go ahead and reload. And now, to be clear, I'm hitting breakpoints in my Node app, but the breakpoint is in the container in the cloud amongst all the other containers. Giving me that feeling of confidence that this is going to work into production, because that's as close as you can get without actually being in production. And I can even hover over it, and you see I've got locals and all the things. So it's a real debug session, except the power is in Azure. But it's as fast or faster than running locally. Yeah. That's hot. So that works. Let's go see if I get my money. There we go. I've got my money. So now I can maybe afford to stay in Jersey. That is the Kubernetes cluster that I'm running on with, again, different languages, different platforms, different team members. And it's encouraged that we're all working together like this with things like Live Share and with things like this new Visual Studio tooling for AKS. You're going to enable F5 debugging with the confidence of production. And you're going to be able to have an experience that tests your app end to end, not just with other services in Kubernetes, but with other services within Azure. Thank you very much.